Hello and welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Appreciate you being with me today. Today we're going to extend our conversation on the future of leadership. And I am Bryan Smeltzer. I spent 30 years as executive leadership at Oakley, adidas, TaylorMade, K-Swift, sold my own apparel brand to a VC firm, and now I advise CMOs and brand leaders through Liquid Mind on building brands that shape the future. And today on the Visionary Chronicles, we're going to talk a little bit further on the future of leadership, emerging trends, and the evolving role of the visionary leader, or for that matter, any executive leader. What I wanted to put forth in this episode was really, what does leadership look like for the future? So the next decade, I say, really won't be won by the leader who knows the most. It'll be won by the leader who adapts the fastest. It's an interesting contrast to what we had in the past, right? Builds the deepest culture, holds the clearest vision when everyone else is reacting to just noise. So today we're breaking down the 5 forces reshaping leadership right now. And what every visionary leader, or again, any executive leader, needs to do about each one of these. And I always start out with a quote, and I felt this was very appropriate. It's from Alvin Toffler. He's a futurist, for those of you who don't know who he is. I actually didn't know who he was either, but that was a pretty cool quote. The illiterate of the 21st century will be not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. A pretty interesting quote. I thought it was really appropriate for what we'll be talking about today. And today we're really living through the most, what I call, compressed period of leadership change in modern business history. AI is reshaping every function. Generational shifts are rewriting the social contract between leaders and the people they lead. Geopolitical volatility is making global strategy feel like an uneducated guess. And the pace of change, as we know, isn't slowing, it's accelerating. So what do you do as a leader? Has the playbook changed? And if so, what does it look like? So I wanted to kind of shed as much light on this as I could in the episode. And in this environment, the leaders who will define the next decades are the ones who are reacting, the ones who saw this coming and build for it. And that's what the Visionary Leader is designed to do. The Visionary Leader book, it's a best-selling book. It's available on Amazon and all book distribution outlets. It really gives you the framework to lead from the future instead of managing the present or looking in the past. So today we break down 5 forces every visionary leader needs to understand, embrace, and act on. And now is when you need to do it. So the first concept I'll talk about is what I call this AI augmented leader. And it kind of tails off of an episode I did a couple weeks ago, the AI-centered CEO. And one of those points I was making was just this, the AI augmented leader, leading alongside intelligent systems. And everybody needs to understand, how do I do this? So this conversation around AI in leadership is stuck in the wrong framing, I call it. Most executives are asking, will AI replace me? The visionary leader asks a different question entirely. How do I lead better with AI than I ever could without it? AI is not a threat to visionary leadership. It's a multiplier of it, if you know how to use it. So what is this shift? Its CEO ownership of AI strategy has doubled in the past year. Nearly 3/4 of CEOs now identify as their organization's primary decision maker. 3/4, and this isn't the VP, it's the CEO thinks he's the decision maker on AI. He's that afraid of it, or she's that afraid of it. Half believe their role is on the line if AI fails to deliver ROI. That pressure is real, and I get it, but it's also an opportunity. Visionary leaders are not building AI strategies, they're building AI augmented organizations with human judgment. It directs the machine, and the machine amplifies human capacity. So the principle here is, and the Visionary Leader is from the Visionary Leader book, principle we put in there is the leaders who will win are not the most technically fluent. And that's the beauty of AI, to be quite honest. They're the ones who can ask the right questions of an AI system and recognize when its output needs human judgment to redirect it. Strategic interrogation is what I call this. Ethical reasoning and creative synthesis are now the most defensible executive skills in AI era. And again, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it's a great point to make again. And here's a practical application to concept number one, and I want you to think about this. Identify the top 3 decisions to organization that AI could inform but not make. Number 2 is build one human AI workflow this quarter and measure the decision speed improvement. And then ask your team, where are we using AI as a shortcut instead of a multiplier? Concept number 2 is the adaptive organization. Building for change, not against it. Too many organizations that we work with Liquid Mind are too structured. They don't have the ability or capability, much less, to be adaptive. And the most dangerous assumption in business today is that your current organizational structure will be the right one in 3 years. It's just not going to happen. The leaders who are winning in 2026 are not managing change. They built organizations that are designed to change. And they did it before the pressure hit. So here's the shift in concept 2. Research from the World Economic Forum confirms that analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility are the most valued skills across every industry. The move towards flatter structures, built around cross-functional teams with real decision-making authority, empowerment, I call it, is accelerating. Command and control is just not ineffective in this environment. It's a liability. So change it. And here's the visionary leadership principle from the book. Adaptive organizations are not built from the top down. They're built from the culture up. Think about that. Adaptive organizations are not built from the top down, they're built from the culture up. Clear priorities, simple decision rules, strong values. These are not soft leadership tools. They are the load-bearing infrastructure that allows your organization to move fast without fragmenting. When the world gets noisier, fundamentals get louder. So here's your practical application for concept 2. Map your current decision-making structure. Where does speed go to die? And we all have it, so be honest with this assessment. Number 2 is identify one cross-functional team that could own a decision it currently escalates. Empowerment. Audit your organizational values. Are they specific enough to be decision filters? And concept number 3 is the human-centered leader. And what I mean by this is culture as a competitive moat. Here is what I call this leadership paradox for the next decade. As AI handles more of the technical work, the human skills become more valuable, not less. Empathy, trust, psychological safety, the ability to hold people's ambitions and fears simultaneously and lead through both is invaluable, and that will not change. These are not soft skills. In 2026, they are strategic differentiators. So here's the shift in this concept. 71% of leaders being under increased stress. 71%. 40% are considering leaving their roles. DDI research shows 77% of CHROs lack confidence in their leadership bench strength. This is not a talent shortage. It's a leadership culture problem that needs to be fixed. Organization with strong culture consistently outperforms for their peers. Not occasionally, consistently. Over 10-year periods was being reported. Culture is now the most durable form of competitive advantage available to any organization. Think of brands within your space that you admire. Why do you admire them? It's not the product, it's the culture. When you build a great culture like Oakley, like Nike, like Adidas, and my CPG expertise, that's a culture creator that people aspire to go work for. So from the Visionary Leader book, here's a principle from this concept. Visionary leaders do not build cultures by writing values on a wall. They build cultures by making 1,000 small decisions in a way that is so consistent with those values, especially under pressure. They don't change their vision because they're under pressure. That's not a brand. That's a commodity that doesn't know how to execute a strategy. The culture is not what you say. It's what you tolerate, reward, and model. So here's a practical application from the concept number 3. Name the 3 behaviors your culture actually rewards, not the ones you aspire to reward. Identify one place where your stated values and your observed behavior are misaligned with one another. And you probably have to go outside your office to find that person, to be honest with you. And number 3 is build one ritual this quarter that reinforces the culture you are building. Concept number 4 is the purpose-driven brand. Vision as the new business strategy. Purpose has become a contested term in business. People don't know exactly how to handle it or what to do with it. It's been over-marketed, under-delivered, and in some companies, politically polarizing for some reason. But let's strip away the noise, and the underlying principle remains as true as it had always been. Leaders who know exactly what they're building know what they're building. And they can articulate it with precision, attract better people, and build stronger brands and create more durable organizations. That's how it's always been and how it's always going to be. And what is this shift in this concept? Research consistently shows that organizations with clear, meaningful purpose attract and retain top talent at a significantly higher rate. But there's a critical distinction you should be aware of. Purpose that is lived versus purpose that is performed. Authentic versus not authentic. Consumers, employees, and investors have developed a sophisticated ability to detect the difference. The brands that are winning today are the ones where purpose is a filter for every decision they make, not a marketing layer applied after the fact. So from the Visionary Leader book, here's a principle from concept 4. Purpose in a visionary organization is not a statement, it's a decision-making system. It answers 3 questions. Why do we exist? What would be lost if we disappeared off the map? And what decisions are we willing to make our competitors or not? That's a ballsy risk-reward strategy that every great brand I've been associated with or partnered with Liquid Mind has had that mindset. What decisions are we willing to make that our competitors are not? So here's a practical application on concept 4. What I want you to do is write your purpose in 1 sentence, not a paragraph, 1 sentence. Test it. What decision would you make differently if you led with this purpose? The last is ask your team to name one thing the company does that contradicts that stated purpose. It'll probably be a quick answer for most brands that we've been associated with, Liquid Mind, as well as ones I've been part of throughout my career. And number 5 concept is the legacy leader, building for the decade, not the quarter. The most important leadership shift of the next decade is the one that is the hardest to make, moving from quarterly management mindset to a decade scale vision. This is not about ignoring short-term performance. I'm not saying that. It's about ensuring that every short-term decision is made in service of a long-term architecture and strategy and vision. So from the Visionary Leader book, here's the principle on concept 5, is legacy leaders operate on 2 time horizons simultaneously. The first is execution, what needs to happen in the next 90 days to keep the organization healthy, funded, and moving. The second is architecture, the framework of your company, of your brand, what needs to be true in 1,000 days for this organization to have built something that outlasts its founders and the leaders who built it. The ability to hold both without sacrificing one for the other is a defining characteristic of a visionary leader in the decade ahead. And here's the practical example I would like you to look at. What I want you to do is, on concept 5, write a 1-paragraph vision for what your organization looks like in 1,000 days. Map back from that vision what must be true in 90 days to stay on that trajectory. Identify one quarterly decision you are making that contradicts your decade scale vision. So here are some final thoughts on the Visionary Chronicles episode for today. The future of leadership is not a prediction, it's a choice. The 5 forces that we covered today, AI augmentation, adaptive organizations, human-centered culture, purpose-driven vision, and legacy thinking, are not abstract trends. They are decisions that are being made right now in boardrooms and team meetings and one-on-ones by leaders exactly like you. The leaders who will define the next decade are not wanting to wait for the future to arrive, they're building it. So here's your challenge this week. Pick just one of the 5 concepts I've talked about today. Just one. Ask yourself, what is the one decision I've been deferring that this concept demands that I make a decision and make it today? That's your one challenge for this week. I think you can handle that one out of the 5 I talked about today. So always transform, reinvent, revolutionize. It's not a tagline. This is your mandate. So if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to pick up a copy of The Visionary Leader, the Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. It's an Amazon bestseller, and it's the principles that we talked about today and the visionaries that I outlined in my episodes. It's available on Amazon, wherever books are sold. The book really draws directly from the frameworks that I talk about with you each and every episode we discuss on the show. It's really a blueprint for building the kind of leadership that creates the generational impact. And I'll have the link in the show notes for you. And if you're a CMO, founder, brand leader, you'd like to apply these frameworks directly to your business, I work with a select number of clients on a private advisory basis through Liquid Mind. And if that's you and if that's of interest, visit liquidmindadvisory.com. And there's also a link in the show notes as well. I'd be happy to do a 15-minute overview of what you're looking to achieve, what your vision looks like, and how we might be able to help. And one quick ask before I go, if this episode gave you one idea, hopefully it gave you one, you can use this week. Would you mind taking 30 seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcasts? It tells the algorithm the show is worth finding, and more importantly for me, It helps other leaders discover the content that they're missing. So search the Visionary Chronicles, scroll to rankings and reviews or ratings and reviews, and leave an honest note. I read all of them, and I'm extremely appreciative whoever leaves a review. And for weekly brand strategy and leadership insights I don't share anywhere else, subscribe to the Visionary Advisory newsletter at bryansmeltzer.com, BRYANSmeltzer.com. The link is in the show notes as well. So again, thank you for your time on the Visionary Chronicles today, where the future is created by those bold enough to shape it. Until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, keep shaping the future. Stay true, stay authentic, be different, be great, but enjoy the journey along the way. I'm Bryan Smeltzer, and I look forward to the next Visionary Chronicles.